What's going on, you guys? Welcome on back to the channel. Now, I can't believe I finally get to say this, but My Hero Academia More is finally here. And with it comes, honestly, the most perfect episode to My Hero Academia I think I've ever seen. Like, this episode to me is just perfect. From the compositing to the animation to the voice acting, everything about this episode just worked in such a great way. It elevated the source material from what it was in the manga, but it also valued and respected Horikoshi's work. It was just perfect. So, without further ado, let's get into it. Let's talk about My Hero Academia more. So, the first thing that I really liked about this episode is that it immediately starts with Uraraka's dream of Toga. And what I like about this is it frames the entire point of this episode and creates the entire structure for the episode. Like Uraraka trying to figure out just what this dream for Toga entails because she hasn't seen Toga in a long time. So the fact now that these dreams are starting up again, she wants to know where it's coming from. Now, what I also like too is everything that Uraraka has essentially got up to since the time skip. What I love so much is that she goes around to these different schools and essentially provides court counseling. What I love so much about this is that it's so kids like Toga don't fall through the cracks because Toga, the reason why she even became a villain is that nobody really knew how to handle her quirk, right? Everybody just kind of viewed Toga as like a monster. They didn't know what to view about. They didn't know what to do with her. So she falls through the cracks, and because of that, and because of how society treated her, she became a villain. So what I like about Uraraka's work in the future is that she's trying to prevent another Toga from ever happening again. Right? That is like the main point of her and Toga's fight because like her and Toga's fight was never recorded. Like she now views it as her mission to essentially never let another Toga happen again. So I like that a lot with Uraraka. I like that that's essentially become like her main thing, like as an adult, just doing all this for like kids growing up. I like that so much. She's essentially providing court counseling, and that's awesome to me. Now, moving on from that, we do find out like through her and Froppy on the train ride that she's essentially been dreaming of like having the same dream about Toga for a month. Like she even went to a doctor and she still can't figure out what it's really about. What I like though, like when Uraraka is talking to Froppy and she's telling her about Toga and like how she fears like her and Toga's blood like mixed together. What I like is that the scene goes like gray and then you just see Toga like overlapped behind Uraraka to show that like they're like still connected in that way. I love that scene a lot. That's one of the best like directorial choices of the episode in my opinion. So really good choice, really good change. I like that a lot. Now, moving on from that, I do love too how like the first 7 minutes of this episode is solely dedicated to Uraraka as a character. I like the fact that we don't even see Deku until like the 7 minute mark because it goes to show just how important like Uraraka is to the episode. I know that is how it was like in the manga, and that's essentially how it was structured. But I like that we don't really see our main character until later on in the episode. So I like that a lot. It goes to show that both of these characters are important to the episode. Now, moving on though, we've finally reached Deku and his car ride with Kirishima and Bakugo. What I love so much about this car ride is the conversation that happens here. I love that we essentially get to see Bakugo like invite Deku to his agency in his own way because Bakugo would never come out and say directly that he wants Deku to come work at his agency, but I like how he teased it up with essentially him saying like, "Oh, like if anybody had just said they wanted to surpass me, I would have taken them on immediately." What I like about that is it's essentially like symbolizing him and Deku's relationship. Deku, ever since they were kids, he's always wanted to essentially surpass Bakugo because Bakugo was always one of his biggest inspirations as a kid. Like he always viewed like Bakugo as the perfect hero. So he's always wanted to surpass him, right? And become the number one hero. But what I like too is that Bakugo, even though he loves like competing with Deku, I love the fact too that now he's essentially reached the point where he wants to be able to work side by side with him. And that's essentially why he throws the invite out there to see if they can just like work together all the time now. I love that. That's such a good like little development with Bakugo as a character because like even though he is kind of like explosive within the scene, I do like the fact though that he's a lot more subdued when he's talking to Deku now. He's not as combative as he usually was. I like the fact that when he's talking to Deku, it's a lot more like matter of fact and kind of softer. I like that a lot. It shows that Deku, or not Deku, it shows that Bakugo has kind of evolved as a character. And what I also love though, before I get into the rest of the Bakugo stuff, I love the fact that when Deku was kind of rejecting Bakugo in a way to working with his agency, even though he doesn't know it, I love the fact that he treats his work as a teacher so important. Like, I love that so much. I love that he doesn't treat his work as a teacher as a consolation prize because that was the main thing when these chapters were coming out. Like, a while ago. Like when they first came out, everybody was like, "Oh, Deku's viewing being a teacher as a consolation prize. He doesn't actually want to be a teacher. He really wants to be a hero. He got left behind by his friends." No, because even though now that he has the suit and he can operate as a hero, he treats his work as a teacher just as important, right? He views it on the same level as being a hero, like helping to shape the next generation and also being a hero. He treats them the same way. I love that so much because it shows to me that Deku, like, I think he was always going to be a teacher, right? Especially with his notebook. But here you get to see Deku like show the fact that he's treating both sides of himself equally, right? He's not like valuing one over the other. They're both important to him. They're both what make up him as a person. And I love that so much. It's honestly one of my favorite moments for Deku because you get to see like just how much he values being a teacher and how much especially how he valued teachers like Aizawa that kind of helped shape him into becoming the person that he is today. So I love that a lot. It was honestly such a great moment for me. And also I love the scene too because he kind of keeps sinking further and further into the seat too. It's kind of like a thing of visual humor. I like that a lot. But what I also love though is that when like Bakugo essentially talks to him like after this whole speech, and he essentially tells him like if you view everybody the same, then you're never going to be able to see what's in front of you. Something like I'm pretty sure that's what he said. I don't remember it exactly, but I'm pretty sure that's how it goes. But that essentially becomes like the crux of what happens for the rest of the episode for Deku at least. Now, moving on from the car ride, we finally get to Shoto's dinner. And this is one of my favorite scenes of the episode. I loved being able to see everybody interact with each other again. Like all those interactions were just perfect. But what I loved the most was when Shoto came to sit with Deku and he came to sit with Bakugo. That was my favorite scene because we get to see just how happy Shoto is as a person now, right? Like Shoto, through so much of his life, was consumed with anger and grief and guilt, but now he is essentially evolved into this just happy person, right? He's able to discover new facets of himself. Like, he's taking cooking classes. I love that so much because throughout all of his life, he was just bred to be like the like all Might replacement, right? He was just made to surpass All Might. But what I love here is that he's realizing that being a hero isn't the end all be all. He's getting to learn different things about himself. Like he's learning about cooking because he realized just how much he loves to eat. So he's taking cooking classes and getting to learn more about that side of himself. I love that so much. And I also love too how in every scene that Shoto is in, he's always smiling. Like that is such a good evolution to his character, man. I love that so much. Every scene with Shoto was great. Like they really crushed it with him. But then we finally get the moment where we have a villain alert and everybody just squads up and gets ready to go. I love that scene so much because a lot of it is anime original, right? You don't get to see a lot of this in the manga. So them running on the roofs and all that, that's anime original. And I also love how the big four of that class essentially work in tandem to stop the truck, right? You get to see Ida like uses Ingenium armor, where he's kind of like where the animation for him you can tell is inspired by Vigilantes because this is the best that Ito has looked in years. You get to see Bakugo like use his explosions. You get to see Deku use his black whip again. Like that was so great to see, and that's anime original as well. But what I love the most is when Shoto comes in with his ice attack. With Shoto before, a lot of his attacks you could tell were fueled by anger and all that. But what I like here is that Shoto's attack here is a lot more not only delicate, but it's more elegant, showing that his attacks aren't fueled by anger anymore, but they're more fueled by I guess I would say his happiness because even though like they don't look as strong now, like the attack is still strong. So he's not fueling his attack by anger or rage anymore. It's now fueled by essentially like happiness. I like that a lot. It's a really cool, like subtle change to Shoto as a character, but it's a big one, and I like it a lot. Now, moving on from all that, we finally get the moment that I have been looking forward to the most, Deku and Uraraka's confession scene. What I love so much about it is that it starts up with Uraraka turning around, basically realizing that she wants more with Deku, and then you see Deku come running into the scene. And what I love so much for Deku is that he essentially talks to her at first, and he's like, I viewed all of our classmates so highly, and I respect all of them, and I thought that would be enough for me. But I realized that I wanted to talk with you more, and he realized that he wants more with Uraraka. I love that scene so much, but what I love the most is this anime original moment where the camera zooms into Uraraka's eye and then it goes back to the dream scene with her and Toga, and then we find out what the dream was about. It was essentially about Toga coming back because now that Deku has re-entered like Uraraka's life again, the one thing that Uraraka never fully resolved was her feelings for Deku. She's never fully addressed them. That's why Toga has essentially come back through these dreams because she wants to be able to push Uraraka to her happiness. And that's also another great anime original change. You see like Toga push like Uraraka forward. Uraraka like turns around and she just goes, okay. And then you see her like ready to move forward with Deku, and then they clasp hands and they essentially become a couple. I love that scene so much, but what I love the most about that scene is that you get to see the hero version of Deku looking down at that moment, and then he just flies away, symbolizing that he like the hero version of Deku is officially ready to make space in his life for more, right? He's ready to make space in his life for more, and that more is a relationship with Uraraka. I love that so much. And then, dude, when Toga essentially like fades away, when she walks away and fades away, like I love that scene so much because similar to how Shigaraki was with Deku, both ghosts of their past are essentially gone now. Like with Deku and Uraraka respectively. Like Shigaraki's gone, Toga's gone. They're both able to let go of their grief and their guilt over those two situations. And now they're able to just be one and they're able to be more. And I love that scene so much. Now, I could talk about this episode literally all day. There's so much that I think I didn't even talk about, but this was a perfect episode of My Hero Academia, man. I love this from beginning to end. such a perfect episode. They knocked it out of the park. But I do love the fact though that this isn't the end. We have now another special coming out sometime later this summer where it's going to be about the Airy chapter that we got in the Ultra Age art book. And we're finally going to get the true ending that I was always talking about, where Deku is just smiling. I love that so much. I love that that's finally going to get adapted, and that's going to be the last thing we see of My Hero Academia. That's perfect to me. But let me know what you guys think. Let me know what you guys thought about this episode down in the comments below. Is there anything that I missed that you guys think I should have talked about? Let me know what you guys think, and I would love to hear your guys' thoughts on this. Like, comment, subscribe, and as always, I'm going to talk to you guys next time. Bye.